Welcome to Woman on Her Path. Every woman has her own unique path. But what does that mean? How does said woman know what her path is? How does she find the courage to follow her path? I am your host, Tiffany Cooper. I am a mother, energy worker, community herbalist, and bhakti yogi. By sharing my experiences and insights on my path, I hope to inspire and encourage you on yours. When we follow our path, we find the answers we need in life. Let's find answers together and create a better world for ourselves and those around us. Hi, everyone. I'm back, and it's time for another episode of Woman on Her Path. Only this time, I have a special treat for you. I actually wanted to keep it as a surprise, but then I thought better and decided to tell you so that you can prepare yourself. So, drum roll, please. We are doing a guided meditation at the end of this episode. Hooray! So go ahead and get whatever you need to feel more comfortable in your meditation. That could be a meditation cushion, a blanket, a sheepskin, a pillow, an eye pillow, anything at all that you would like that will let you get nice and cozy. And if you've never meditated before, just get anything that you think will help you settle into a nice, comfy spot. So again, any of the things that I've already mentioned. Oh, and also make sure that you are dressed comfortably. You want to be in loose-fitting clothes and something like your favorite sweats, whatever you want. And if you'd like, you can even pause this episode now while you get ready. But as I said, we won't do the meditation until the end of the episode, so you have time. Before we get into our meditation, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of practices like meditation, yoga, or energy healing, etc. Sometimes finding our path can seem daunting. With all the things a typical human being has going on in their lives, the idea of finding our path can seem like one more thing to add to the list. And the lovely thing about being on our path is that it's actually not a separate endeavor from the rest of our lives. Our path becomes our life. Our life becomes our path. And when that happens, life becomes much more smooth and enjoyable. It's not that all the problems in life disappear. What actually happens is we settle into a place of equanimity, a place of balance, that allows us not to get so disturbed when something goes wrong, in quotation marks. In Bhagavad Gita, one of the sacred texts of ancient India, equanimity is mentioned as a sign of self-realization. Self-realization is understanding who you truly are at your very depths. When we begin to come closer to self-realization, it becomes easy to recognize our path. Some people speak of a strong calling toward their path. Others say that their path came to them as an epiphany or a revelation after a long period of suffering. Even more seem to glide right into their path as if they were born with a map etched into their brain. However our path comes to us, we must have faith in it and follow it with determination. And as an example, I'll share a story about how I came to my path of shamanism. It's a very long story, but I'll try to make it as short as I can. First, let me preface my story by saying that each branch of my path has come to me in a very strong, in a very definitive way. And I think part of that comes from my praying to be hit hard with what I need to know in life, because I like to be direct and I don't like to waste a lot of time. Also, I can be a little slow when it comes to superficial things because my focus is not there. So the way to affect me is to either go deep and shake me at my core, or to go subtle where I will sense the energy right away. So the story starts about 4 years after I split from my ex-partner, who is also the father of my children. And things were really, really hard on many, many levels. I was a single mother, homeschooling my kids during the day and working evenings and weekends. I was struggling with the aftermath of my first bout with Lyme disease, and I had no emotional or mental support. Basically, I was forcing myself through each day, determined to see the silver lining around the clouds that seemed to be chasing me everywhere. I finally decided that it was time for change. So I quit the job I had been working at and decided I would teach yoga and work at a health food store part-time, since those things were more in line with who I was. The summer solstice was coming up, and it is always a powerful time for me. I realized that the solstice would fall on a Saturday that year, which I also realized would be my first weekend not working in 4 years. So I wanted to do something special. And at that time, every year for the summer solstice, there was yoga on Times Square in New York City. I don't know, I guess with the pandemic, they, obviously haven't had it, and I don't know if they will resume it again. But anyway, I had planned to go since it was, again, my first weekend off. And I arrived in New York City early that morning, Saturday morning, the morning of the solstice. And I had a nice big breakfast, and I strolled around the city. And then when it was time, I went to Times Square, laid out my mat with hundreds of other yogis there, and I had a sweaty yet invigorating practice. Afterward, I strolled around some more, had a yummy dinner, and then went home. While I was in the city, though, I noticed that there were going to be other classes or events the following day, on Sunday, at a hotel near Times Square. I decided to see how I felt when I woke up the next morning before actually committing myself to going to one of the classes the next day. I awoke on Sunday morning and got a clear message that I should go online and see what classes were offered that day. And so I did that. I went online and I noticed a class that was entitled something like Dreaming the World into Being, and it was listed as a shamanic themed class. So I got in my car and drove back to the city. When I arrived at the hotel, there were maybe 15, 16 other people all in this room, and there was a shaman there. There was a woman there who had trained in shamanism. And as we all sat down around the room, we were all sitting on the floor, and she looked at us and she said, you know, I had planned to do all of these things today, but now I'm getting this message that we all need to have a shamanic journey. And I thought this is wonderful because I've had many, many shamanic journeys before. And I thought, okay, this will be interesting. And so she, actually, before she started the journey, she kind of did a little bit of healing work on a woman who was there. And she laid this woman down I think on a yoga mat in front of all of us. And I think she may have used her pendulum or a rattle. I can't even remember exactly what tools she used, but I remembered that she had laid this woman on her mat and she was kind of going through her energy and trying to diagnose what was happening with her. And immediately I noticed that something was going on with this woman's stomach, because again, I'm an energy reader. The shaman also noticed that I was noticing the same things that she was noticing. And so after she kind of finished up, you know, diagnosing and healing this woman, she then took us on a journey. The journey was not unlike any other journey I'd ever taken. It was actually, I do remember small parts of the journey, and it was a lovely journey. I have a spirit guide who always attends me on my journeys, and so my spirit guide was there, and it was a lovely journey, but it wasn't any different than any, you know, wasn't a spectacular journey, and it wasn't something that stood out as being very different from other journeys that I had taken. And after the journey, you know, we partnered up with another person in the class and shared, you know, our journeys with one another. And I remember that I sat with a young man from Peru. He shared his journey, I shared my journey, and that was pretty much it. Not very different from other journeys that I had done. And after that, the class kind of ended. And just before I was leaving, the shaman, she came to me and she said, "Did you train with the four winds?" And I said, "No, I've never even heard of the four winds. I don't know what that's about." And she's like, "Really?" And I said, "Really? I don't know anything about it." And she said, "Well, you should check it out. You should look into it." And she said, "You should, you know, check out my teacher. His name is Alberto Villoldo." And I said, "Okay." And I left. And I went and had a very nice meal. I had a nice dinner, and then I walked around and did a bunch of other things. And then I came home. And so I arrived home it was in the evening, or at nighttime, actually, Sunday night. I woke up the next morning, which was Monday. I woke up Monday morning, and I remember it was a really, really hot day. And I decided, you know, it was early. It was around 6 a.m. And I decided, you know, since it's going to be so hot today, I'll get out early and work on my garden. And then I'll get on with the rest of my day. And so I got up and just put on just some, you know, grubby clothes to garden in. I didn't shower or anything. And I started to feel a little hungry. And I thought, it's really early. I'm not a big breakfast eater. I'll just wait. I'll go to the garden and then I'll get something. I'll make something to eat for breakfast. And so I went out and I'm digging in the soil, and I really like gardening. I really love digging in the soil. And so I was enjoying digging in the soil that morning. I was feeling really happy, feeling really good. And all of a sudden I was struck by some of the most intense pangs of hunger I've ever experienced. I was immediately starving. And so then I decided, okay, I have to eat. I have to eat something now. So I, took off my gardening gloves and gathered all my tools and headed back inside the house. But then I'm still kind of trying to rationalize the whole thing because it was early. I wasn't a breakfast person. I'm not used to having intense pangs of hunger, especially not that early in the morning. So I tried to rationalize. I thought, well, I'm really dirty now, so I'm going to go take a shower and then I'll have some breakfast. So I go upstairs and I get in the shower and I start washing, and all of a sudden I start feeling the really strong pangs of hunger again, really, really intense. And I started getting this message to get out of the shower, get out now. So I got out of the shower and immediately had to use the bathroom, and I started sweating profusely. My body was detoxifying, just kind of, spontaneously detoxifying itself and ridding itself of everything. And then the hunger was gone. I had no desire to eat. I wasn't hungry anymore. And I went on with my day, and that day, on all accounts, seemed to be a very normal day. That evening, I made dinner for my children, but I did not eat anything. So I didn't eat the entire day. I wasn't hungry. I had made food for my family, for my children, but I wasn't hungry. So that was okay. I've fasted before, so it wasn't a big deal, but I thought, okay. Then Tuesday came, and Tuesday I had to teach a yoga class, but I wasn't hungry. Still wasn't hungry. Did not eat on Tuesday. And my class was Tuesday evening, so I thought maybe I should try to eat something just in case, because I want to keep my strength up. I don't want to be tired or weak as I'm teaching the class. And I tried to eat something and my body said no. So I didn't eat Tuesday. Wednesday came and the same thing. The entire day I had no appetite. Wednesday evening, I had an energy reading with someone. And I remember thinking then, I don't know if I've ever done a reading while I was fasting. And I started to think maybe I should try to eat something just in case so that I can make sure that I have my wits about me and I can, do this reading. Again, my body said no. Went and did the reading. It went beautifully. Thursday comes, still no food, still cooking for my children, still going on with my day. But by this time, I'm also realizing that not only had I not eaten, I was also feeling energized and feeling clean and clear, and I felt very good. Friday comes and I realize that I still have no appetite. But at that time, I had one of my very best friends had a beach house and had invited me down. And this particular friend has always been like a mother hen to me. And I knew that if I went to hang out with him at the beach and I didn't eat, that that would be a problem for him. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go to the supermarket, and I just bought a bunch of fruit, I think mainly berries. And I headed down to the beach, and I got to the beach house and cleansed, washed my fruit. And that's all I had that day. And then finally on Saturday is when I started to eat again. So I had gone 5 days of fasting, which again, I have fasted before. It wasn't so different. The difference in it was that I had gone 5 days of fasting and had not experienced lethargy, the tiredness that we get with fasting, or sometimes we get headaches. I didn't experience any of that. In fact, it was the complete opposite. I felt better than I had, and I had a tremendous amount of energy. It was then that I realized that that shamanic journey that I had done 5 days before clearly had an effect on me. So I remembered the name of this organization and also the teacher, this shaman's teacher. And I began to kind of look around, search online and try to find information about this teacher. And so I found him and I listened. I listened to his recordings, and I don't think I saw any videos at that point. I think I just listened to some audio recordings, and I thought, what he has to say is interesting, but I'm not really connecting here. So I don't think this is the right thing for me. Oh, and what I forgot to mention is, as I was taking that shower and being told that I had to get out, I was also receiving messages, and I received 4 distinct messages, but one of them was that you have to train in shamanism. This is something that you have to do. At that time, I explained, all the things that I was dealing with in my life at the time, and I thought, when I was hearing that message, I was thinking, no, I can't. The last thing I have is energy and time to do any kind of training right now, to put my energy toward anything else, to even consider taking in any kind of knowledge right now. I just can't do it. But again, the push was so strong that I had to kind of research. I had to look into things. So as I said, I went to the teacher who this woman had mentioned to me, and I didn't feel a connection there, but I didn't give up completely. And so I looked around online. I talked to other people. I tried to find out more information about other shamans around the world and trainings. I couldn't find any that I connected with. So I thought, maybe I'll just kind of put this to bed right now and come back to it another time. However, during this time, I had also found a book written by this teacher, the shaman who I had done the journey with, who she had trained with through this organization called the Four Winds. I had found one of his books, and the book is entitled Shaman, Healer, Sage. So I kept the book kind of hanging around for a little while. I added it to my ongoing stack of books, and I thought that I would get back to it at a time that seemed right. However, my sons had asked me to take them to an amusement park, and they couldn't seem to match up their schedules with their friends' schedules, so they could only find one other friend to take with them. And so, of course, they asked me to go to be the 4th person to ride on the rides with them. And so I thought, sure, I'll go. Well, last minute, it turns out that another friend could join them. So I already had a ticket, and I thought, well, I'll just go and kind of hang around at the park. I would rather do that anyway, because I'm just that kind of mother. I took the book with me because I thought I'll have plenty of time to sit and read. And so we get to the park. The boys are off having a wonderful time, riding all the rides, and I'm sitting. Every time I open the book, and I would start reading, I felt as though I was getting energy and getting messages from the book. So much so that not just, getting messages from what I was reading, clearly I was getting something from it, but I was getting other messages besides what was written in the book. I mean, the book was similar to other stories I had read before. I didn't feel like there were any revelations in the book. The words on the page is not what I was getting. I was actually feeling energy and getting messages from the book itself that, in fact, the messages seem to come from between the lines, like that saying, read between the lines. And it was literally coming from between the lines. It was the things that were not being said. I was getting messages that were after what was being said on the page. It was coming from between the lines. These messages and that energy was affecting me on such a deep level that every time I opened the book and started to read, I would just start crying. Yeah, I would just start crying. And it wasn't an emotional cry. It was just tears streaming down my face. And I remember thinking that this energy that I'm getting, these messages that I'm getting are all so very familiar that they're almost as though not only were they touching me on it touching me in a very deep place, they were also, I was responding to them from a very deep place within me. So, I'd read maybe a paragraph and start crying, and then close the book. Then I'd read another paragraph and start crying and close the book. And I think I did that maybe 4 or 5 times before I decided, you know what? Let's not read the book here today, because it was a, typical summer day at an amusement park. It was very, very crowded. There were so many people there. And I thought, I'd rather do this when I am in a place where I can just let myself go and experience whatever it is I experience. So I put the book away. I decided that I would just kind of take things in, and I was sitting on a bench, people watching, and just kind of looking around, and I happened to look up to the sky and I saw a horizontal rainbow. And I thought, this is interesting. I haven't seen this before. I looked away and I looked back, and it was still there. And so then I started looking around at other people in the park, because I'm thinking, if I can see this thing, then everyone can see it. But nobody seemed to notice. And so then I looked away again and kind of, tried to stop thinking about it. And I looked up and it was still there. And again, I looked around the park and thought, someone else has to see this, but nobody seems to be looking up at the sky. And there happened to be a young couple sitting on the bench next to me. And I looked at them and I said, do you guys see that? And they looked up at the sky, and I remember the look that the young man gave me. He kind of looked at me like, what are you talking about? So then I thought, okay, I took my phone out and I took pictures of it. And that was it. And I went home that evening and realized that, I had to do something about this. This was a serious calling. This was not something that I could ignore anymore. Got back online, went to research the original teacher that I was told about, that I had looked into in the very beginning. Again, his name is Alberto Villoldo, and his organization, his and his wife's organization, is called the Four Winds. And I began training with them. I also realized that although once the training began, I did finally connect with him as my teacher. The other very important thing that I realized in my training with him, in my connection with him, was that it's not about the person. It's about the teachings. It's about the lineage that he connected me to. None of this is ever about one individual person. It's so much bigger than that, because all power and all abilities draw from the same source. Now, that story turned out to be a lot longer than I expected, so I am going to stop right here and we will get into our meditation. Meditation is such a powerful tool, and people meditate for different reasons. Here in the West, the most prominent reason for meditation is to relieve stress. As a society, we have been through so much lately with political divisions, social distancing, fear or distrust of others, and all of these things have taken a toll on us. It's really important that we find ways to come to a place of stillness and to connect with inner peace, to connect with the energy of the heart. Meditation allows us to quiet the constant chatter of the mind. All of those distracting, sometimes even disturbing thoughts that lead to anxiety. We may not have the power to change the outside world. However, we can change our inner landscape. It is truly the only place that we have real control. Meditation helps us stay in the moment. And if you've taken my yoga class, you've surely heard me say that the past is gone, the future hasn't come yet. So the time that we have the most power in our lives is the present. You see, we have to infuse each of our present moments with as much presence as we can. Meaning we have to show up and be a positive force within our own lives. If we neglect standing up and being counted in our own lives, then we hand over our power to others. Rather than bringing our energy to a situation, we leave the door open for others to make decisions for us, even when we don't realize. We must occupy our own space. Then we must fill that space with as much love and affirmation as we possibly can. Each moment that we infuse with positive energy leads to the next moment that then has a better chance at being positive. It's like we create a chain reaction of positive energy, each moment building on another. And so I also want to clarify or explain what I mean by positive energy or positive moments. I know that the word positive has become kind of a buzzword in our culture, particularly amongst spiritualists or yogis or, I don't know, armchair social media psychologists. It's just become one of those words in our culture that has been kind of bastardized. It's been overused and misused and superficialized. For most people, it seems positive means good. However, I don't like to look at life in terms of good and bad or black and white. You know, so much of life really happens in the gray. From my energy work background, though, positive and negative take on very different meanings. Positive energy in terms of energy work, in terms of how I have communicated with the universe, means energy that is flowing. The universe seems to appreciate flowing energy because that's the way that everything works. That's the way that everything functions in the universe. Everything's flowing. Energy is always moving. Things are always changing. Things are growing. Things are dying. Things are always in a state of flux. And if we take a step back and look at our lives, we will see that the times that we've gotten ourselves into the most trouble, or the times that we've experienced the most suffering, is when we have tried to stop that flow. When we have created barriers in our lives, when we have tried to block that flow by resisting change, by holding on to things that are no longer serving us in our lives. And when we do that, we're kind of creating this brick wall. We actually become like brick walls. And as the energy tries to continue to flow through us, to flow through our lives, it keeps encountering, it keeps colliding with the barriers and the obstacles that we have put up. And as that energy that's supposed to flow is supposed to continue to move through us, as it bumps into our brick walls, our walls begin to crumble. And that's when we feel as though our lives are beginning to crumble. So the best thing that we can do for ourselves is remain open and to allow energy to flow, allow things to change, even when we may feel a little anxious or a little afraid about what's to come. We must try to learn to go with the flow and allow that energy to stay positive. So meditation actually allows us to open up. It allows us to settle our mind so that we can begin to let go of fears, let go of stress, let go of whatever's holding us back. Then we open up and begin to experience life. So I've been meditating on my own for a very long time, actually almost half of my entire life. I also teach meditation, and what I have found is that I really like meditating with others. There is a certain quality to the energy when you're in a room with a group of people all meditating. And you begin together with this, you can kind of sense the buzzing of everyone's minds around you. And then there comes a point where everybody begins to settle. And you feel that energy in the room settle as well. And it becomes deeper and deeper. And then you begin to feel the field around you. So you've created this beautiful field of energy and this beautiful field of connection. You know, you create this field of community. And within that field of connection and community, you begin to connect with people in ways that you never have before, because you're not using your words, you're not using your vision, you're not using any of your senses or faculties that we usually use to communicate with others. Instead, you're communicating with them through your energy. You begin to sense their energy And within this field, within this connection, within this community, there have been many, many studies on meditation finding how powerful that is and how the power of that group, that connected, that community meditation can actually create great change. It's also something that we need at this present time. We need to reconnect with others. We need community. We need meaningful ways to begin to relate to one another. We need meaningful ways to see one another. We need to go deeper with one another. We've been through a lot together, and we have so much to process and so much to heal from. And it's really such a beautiful thing to heal with the support of others. There's nothing like healing when you have others around you to hold space for you, to kind of wrap you in a warm blanket of their support and love and energy. There's nothing like being held in that way. So I encourage you to build community for yourselves. Connect with other beings, connect with other people in a real way. As a people, we have been through so much in the last 5 or 6 years, and we have become so divided and so isolated from one another. And we do have our differences. There's no doubt about that, which also can be a very lovely thing. Diversity is a very special thing. You know, when we have diversity, we can bring all of those separate, exciting, unique units together and create something even more magical than we could ever do on our own. And we're really not as different as we may think. We all pretty much want the same things. We just have different ways of attaining them. You know, I spent almost all of this spring traveling, and one of the trips that I went on was a cross-country trip. I drove all the way across the country and back. I gave myself 3 weeks to do this, and I stopped in many wonderful places in this country. And each place that I stopped at, I had gorgeous experiences with people who I'd never seen before in my life. The beauty of it is that we did not talk about politics. We didn't talk about anything that divided us. We only focused on supporting and uplifting one another just through conversation. I met many, many people who were in the process of changing their lives for the better, which I think is one of the gifts that we were given from this difficult time of pandemic. Many people have been spurred to change their lives. I met people who had quit their jobs and were going on to pursue things that really had meaning to them rather than just working for a paycheck. I met people who were just kind of exploring the way that I was, just getting out and seeing more of the world or seeing more of our own nation that seems to be so foreign to us. And besides the people, getting to see so many beautiful places. Most of them, some of them I had never seen, and others I hadn't seen since I was a child. And so to be able to look around, you know, I went to places like Taos, Mexico. I went to Sedona, Arizona. I went to California. I went to Lake Tahoe. I went to Spanish Fork, Utah. All of these places were so beautiful and very different from one another, all mountainous. I had a year of the apus. Apus, that's one of the words that we use in shamanism. It's a Quechua word, which means it's the word for the spirit that lives within the mountains. And so we call mountains apus. And so the last year for me was all about apus in different states, in different countries, and different energies, different vibes. It was very special. So if we can get back to a place where we can show up with open hearts and open minds, then we can all begin to heal and come back together rather than continuing to create distance between ourselves. So please find something that you can do with others, and you can start small. You don't have to challenge yourself right out of the gate. You can do something with like-minded people. You can do something like a book club or community garden or something that brings you together with people who share similar ideas as you, so that you can begin to find your way back to community. Now, let's meditate. If you haven't already done so, now's the time to get any props that you would like for your practice and to ensure that you're dressed comfortably. If you would like to pause the recording so that you can get ready, go ahead and do that now. If you are already to get into your meditation, you want to begin by finding yourself in a nice, comfortable seat, or you even have the option to lay down for this meditation. So it's up to you. You can sit upright. If you're not someone who's used to sitting and meditating, please feel free to lean against a wall or something that can support your back. If you're laying down, make sure that you are nice and comfortable, that the back of the head is resting on your floor or blanket or mat. Make sure that your arms have enough room away from your body, that your shoulder blades are resting on the floor as well. You can have your palms facing up. That will keep the shoulder blades on the floor, keep your shoulders nice and open. Make sure that your feet are a little wider than hip width apart, and allow your feet to roll out to the sides. Now, one note, if you are laying down for this practice, the idea is not to go to sleep. So you want to stay awake, you want to stay aware, and at the same time, you want to allow yourself to get into a deep relaxation. Whether you are sitting up or laying down, begin to connect with the energy at the base of your spine. That energy is the energy of your root chakra, called Muladhara. That chakra is the energy center that connects to your sense of feeling grounded. It is your connection to your sense of stability, your sense of security, your sense of being held by the earth. It is also the connection to your physical body, So as you're bringing your awareness to that space near the base of the spine, so anywhere in that region, begin to feel a sense of connection. Begin to feel yourself held by the earth. Begin to feel your presence in your own body. Now we will begin to cultivate our breathing. We will inhale through the nose to the count of 6 and exhale through your nose to the count of 8. So our exhales are a little longer than the inhales to allow us to release as much air as possible from the lungs. And as you breathe, you want to begin to bring all of your awareness to your breath. We're focusing on the breath so that we can liberate ourselves from the wanderings of the mind. As the ancient text, the Srimad Bhagavatam, tells us, we are not the mind, we are the soul. So go ahead and just put your mind off to the side and begin to connect with the energy of the soul. And as you breathe, you may begin to feel a deeper sense of relaxation, a deeper sense of presence, feeling the measure of your own body. Now returning to your first chakra, your root chakra, called Muladhara, near the base of the spine. Begin to feel that energy there. Perhaps you can even feel a tingling or a heavy sensation. Whatever you feel, acknowledge it and accept it. Now we will begin to connect our breathing with the energy of the first chakra. So what I want you to do is, on your next inhale, begin to feel as though you are not only inhaling air, but you're also inhaling energy through the root, through the base of your spine. And as that energy is coming up into the base of the spine from Mother Earth, along with your breath, allow that breath to travel all the way up your spine, one vertebrae at a time. You can even bring that breath and energy all the way to your crown, to the very top of your head. And on your exhales, you'll retrace that energy and breath back down the spine. So you're exhaling and sending that breath, sending that energy back down your spine, all the way to the root chakra and back into the earth. So continue to breathe in this manner, focusing on your breath, focusing on that sensation that you may feel near the base of the spine. Inhaling, pulling that energy up through the earth, up into your body. And exhaling, sending that energy back down. As you breathe in this manner, you are participating in the reciprocal relationship that we already have with Mother Earth. You're taking in the energy of groundedness, of support, of holding, of safety, of security. And on your exhales, you're sending your energy back down into the earth so that you can continue to build your connection with her. So breathe. Breathe and take in as much as you need to feel protected, to feel safe, to feel cherished. Returning to your root chakra, that beautiful, strong energy near the base of the spine. And as you bring your awareness to the base of the spine, begin to imagine, perhaps you can even feel, a glowing red ball of energy and light right there at the base of your spine. And with each of your inhales, as that energy is coming up through the earth, begin to see that glowing ball, that beautiful red ball of energy and light, glowing and growing bigger. So each inhale, that energy is growing bigger, it's glowing brighter. And you can even continue breathing up the spine the way that you were doing before. Only this time, you're taking that energy from your root chakra, that beautiful red ball of energy and light. You're taking it and bringing it up with your breath. If you'd like, you can even take it back to the crown of the head. And on your exhales, begin to send that energy back down the spine. And as you exhale and you send that energy back down the spine, you can also begin to feel, or maybe you can even see, beautiful red rays of energy traveling throughout your body. So we're inhaling, and the root chakra is growing bigger and glowing brighter. And as we exhale, those beautiful red rays of energy and light are traveling throughout the body. So just continue breathing in this manner. And as you breathe, perhaps you begin to notice a deeper sense of security, a deeper sense of belonging, a deeper sense of being present in your body. And if you'd like, you can stop the recording and continue breathing in this manner. You can also feel free to revisit this episode again and practice this very simple breathing meditation. But we have now come to the end of the show. Thank you for joining me today. And I so hope that I will get to speak with you again in the future. Thank you so much for listening to this show. I hope you found something useful. Like everything in life, we can take what we need and leave the rest. Please feel free to contact me with comments or questions at womanonherpath@gmail.com.